All right, it's 7:30, so I'd like to call the meeting of the Dartmouth Board of Public Works to order. This meeting is being recorded. Mr. LaBelle, you're present.
Aye, here.
Chair is present. We have a three-person board, therefore we have a quorum. I understand that Rick Alves our third member may join us later. If so, we will welcome him into whatever discussion we're having. The first order of business is to approve and accept warrants. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve and accept the warrants for the bills payable period ending August 5th, 12th, 19th, 26th, and September 3rd of 2024.
Mr. LaBelle moves approval of the warrants. The chair seconds. All in favor, Mr. LaBelle?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Next item is to approve and accept payrolls.
Motion to approve and accept the payrolls for the weeks ending July 27 and August 3, 10, 17, and 24 of 2024.
Mr. LaBelle moves approval of the warrants. The chair seconds. Mr. LaBelle, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. The payrolls are approved. Next item is to approve and accept the meeting minutes from July 25th. Who was? Okay. We were all present. Mr. LaBelle, do you have any comments?
I have read it and I have no comments.
The chair has no comments. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve and accept the meeting minutes from July 25th, 2024.
Mr. LaBelle moves approval of the minutes. The chair seconds. All in favor, Mr. LaBelle?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Minutes from July 25th are approved. We'll move down the agenda to old business. Item A is a discussion regarding proposals by the Dartmouth Tree Committee to develop a tree bylaw. Do we have someone from the Tree Committee who'd like to lead this discussion? I see Ms. Parson. Are you prepared to lead this discussion? We'd asked the Tree Committee to come back to us with some thoughts after our last meeting. All right, well, let's table this item and come back to it. Our next item is an update of the SERPED population projection study that's a basis for the the comprehensive wastewater management plan. Mr. Barber, do you have any information on this one?
We don't currently. They're looking to follow up from their last meeting with a meeting in September at some point. I believe in the first couple weeks of September. So once I have that date, I can give it to you. We'll invite you to the meeting.
Mr. LaBelle, do you have any comments on this?
No, I do not. Not at this moment.
I do. As I've expressed to SERPED more than once, we had needed this information to move forward this fiscal year in developing the studies necessary to upgrade and or replace our wastewater treatment facility and collection system. And I personally am disappointed at the amount of time that this is taking. So, Tim, you think we'll be able to meet in September?
Yes, absolutely.
All right. If you would, please ask one of the board members to participate in that meeting. I will do it if no other board members are interested.
Right. We had some preliminary numbers. They submitted some graphs and numbers of some preliminary projections, but they were looking to further that with building department data as well as some other data. They had some data from Donahue from UMass for population projection, but they didn't, like I said, it wasn't complete yet.
Okay. All right, moving on to item C.
Excuse me,
Excuse
Mr.
me,
Chairman, just a point of order. If I would like to attend that meeting and you attend it, is that acceptable?
That would make it we would have to notice that meeting.
Yeah,
Now I don't mind, Ron, if you want to meet, if you want to listen in. I was at the last meeting and it doesn't bother me to have a different board member hear and understand what's going on.
Yeah, I just want to listen in. I wouldn't comment or do anything to make it a quorum.
if I can interject also, once we meet early in September, we may be able to set them up to present at a future board meeting as well. If that's feasible.
Right. So our next our board meeting in September would be tentatively the 19th.
Correct.
You have a date for meeting with them?
I don't, we're looking at the first 2 weeks,
All right.
next week or the week after.
All right. All right, so it would be possible after that meeting to come before the board with a meeting or a briefing so that all the board members could hear it.
Yes.
All right. Okay.
Mr. Rowley,
Yes.
Ann Parson has phoned me that she would like
No.
to be unmuted.
It's okay, I'm unmuted.
Okay.
Good morning.
Good
All right.
morning.
Good morning. So we've completed. Do we have anything else on old business item B? Hearing nothing.
No, we've got old business just on D.
Ms. Parsons, we had to move on. So what I need to do is be sure there's no other discussion on the SERPED population projection, and then we'll go back to the tree committee item. Okay. All right. Anything else on item old business B, SERPED population projection?
I have nothing.
All right. Hearing nothing, we'll go back to old business A, the Dartmouth Tree Committee, tree bylaw. Now, do we have a member of the tree committee that wants to take the lead on a presentation?
Yes, Andrea Langhauser is here this morning and she is head of the bylaw subcommittee and has some updates. Andrea, you're with us?
Yes. You could hear me? Unmuted.
Yes, we
There
can, and you have the floor.
Okay, thank you. If you don't mind, I'd like to share, if you give me the ability, I'd like to share the presentation we've used before, and then speak to modifications that we've come up with, speaking with Tim, the tree committee, and we had an opportunity to speak with Ron LaBelle also since the last meeting. If I can share my screen. Tim, I hope that you, anything I say that works for you, great. Anything I say that doesn't work for you, let me know. I didn't get your feedback on an email that I sent, I know on it rather late. So, okay, slideshow, sorry. I apologize, I'm not your early morning riser. So this is the same presentation we used before, the same reasons for having a tree bylaw in the sense that by expanding your authority under Mass General Law, Chapter 87, we can get better protection for our local trees and the community benefits of those trees that are more significant now as we have greater storm events and the need to sequester our carbon. Trees are also been found to enhance property values and certainly have an aesthetic enhancement. We have been, the tree committee does do a lot of public awareness and tree planting that this would complement. We also don't plan to get into any activity that is already addressed through local zoning. So we don't plan to do anything in terms of increasing site plan review for commercial development or subdivision review. That's squarely in the planning board's authority. But we have been making some good progress on looking at preparing a fund specifically for trees. And we can get to that recommendation. There's been some movement on that. You, through Chapter 87 right now, just as a quick overview to recall, DPW director, along with all the other hats, is also our tree warden. The public trees are all the trees within the public right-of-way. And Chapter 87 does give authority for the town or the utility to plant within close to the right-of-way, up to 20 feet. And usually that's done with owner approval. Permits are required to trim, cut, or remove a tree within the public right-of-way, except for when there's pests or it's considered a hazard. You have a shade tree hearing when it's a removal of a tree, and utilities come forward with annual vegetative management plans, which is a one-shot annual activity. The state fine for trees for removing trees or violating a permit or doing work without a permit is $500 a tree. This is just what you're doing presently. So we spoke of expanding the shade tree to clarify that it's any part of the trunk within the public way, and then also addressing any tree that is of a minimum size of 6-inch diameter whose canopy overhangs the road pavement. We've had some discussion about this, and these trees are, they tend to be the more mature trees in the town. They are, because they're overhanging the road pavement, we think we can make an argument that these trees have a public interest in that they help to shade the roadway. They help to hang on to some of the rainwater that comes in, and they definitely enhance our public right away. But we don't want to get into maintenance on the land side of the tree. We think that, and this is, we'll have to work this language out, but that the town has an interest on the front side of the tree. The back side of the tree should be continue to be the responsibility of the landowner. What we'd like to do, though, is if these trees are going to be trimmed in any significant way, that they speak to the tree warden just for his advice, and if they want to remove that tree, that they come to the tree warden and request a permit. That would have gone through the shade tree hearing, perhaps to discuss the possibility of replacing that tree. These trees are the only avenue into maintenance of our mature trees that the tree bylaw is asking to get involved with. Setback trees are cumbersome. This is a place where the existing state law allows cities and towns to plant trees within up to 20 feet, as long as they have written permission of the landowner. What we're suggesting is that the town seek permission to plant trees outside of the right of way, get the owner's permission, and only with owner's permission do we plant trees in that area. The purpose of planting trees in the setback area, obviously it's not needed if we have a really large right of way, and there's excess area outside the pavement, but most of our older right of ways aren't that big, and if you plant a tree away from the pavement, I think Tim can speak better than I to how the tree has a better chance of success because it doesn't have all the activity along the road of accidents of salt, of the narrow area to work in, the sidewalk area. So if we have the ability to plant trees in this area, we'd like to seek the owner permission. We talked about a setback model we sent you as a fact sheet in your package. And I believe Tim was most responsive to the town of Concord model, where the town would, with owner permission, plant and then maintain for 2 years, which allows the tree to sort of settle into its space. Then it becomes the owner's tree, and we only seek review if that tree were to be removed in the future. We're suggesting an informal review. We may lose track of some of these trees if there's been owner change over time, but we're hoping that those trees that are most embraced by their landowners will be the ones that are, if they were to be removed, that they seek a permit only to get it replaced. Permits, we're not going to suggest trimming, cutting of setback trees, but we are going to suggest removal of setback trees, and planting is still part of that. And then when we talk about a permit for major construction, demolition, or excavation, it would only be for trees in the public way, the drip line trees, and it would only be for the drip line trees and the trees in public way. So what we're talking about likely is just driveway cuts and utility excavations. In both cases, there are opportunities for the tree roots to be impacted, and so could harm the tree. And we'd ask the tree warden to give the landowner public, best management practices for how to protect the trees adjacent to the right of way, or basically in the right of way, because that's the only place we're doing the permit. So we're pushing back, we're pulling back from our original proposal, both in setback and in permitting, keeping the permitting only for your public trees. Permit conditions, replacement of trees. I think we got a really good feedback from everyone that replanting trees is a valuable thing. But we want to do replacement using a Santa Barbara model, which is kind of a high, medium, and low form of replacement. That if it's a small tree, then it's a minor replacement. If it's a medium size, and small could be 4 to 12 inches, and then 12 to 24 inches, which is probably the larger amount of trees, that would have a medium level, so as opposed to if small is stem for stem, replace the tree with another tree. And we're recommending 3-inch diameter because we're working in the public zone. The medium tree might be more than one tree. And if it were 24-inch diameter tree, that would be a really mature tree. If we have the ability to replace the trees with a couple trees and then possibly go into a contribution. We know that speaking of putting any kind of replacement value into a town tree fund is going to require town council approval. And so we're recommending that it only be used for the largest trees, and we'll seek town council comment advice before we go into the before we put it on the warrant article, before we put the article up for town meeting vote. So tree fund has been well received. Right now, fines go into the general budget, and we've gotten really good response that fines, private donations should go into the care and management of trees. If you want to know, Anne has been speaking has had her first meeting with Tim Barber and our finance director, Gary Carrera, on setting up a tree fund. We hope it to be part of the bylaw and come forward in the spring. And fines, I think we received the same sort of, right now, a $5 per tree fine from the state doesn't cover the cost of replanting the tree. And ultimately, that's what we're trying to do. We did get a very good response on the deterrent value of having an elevated fine. But again, it was recommended that there be a small, medium, and large fine. That if it's a smaller tree, it has a smaller fine. If it's a 12 to 24-inch tree, it has a reasonable fine, and that it'd be a larger fine if it's a true mature tree. Using the town already has non-criminal disposition authority through our general bylaw, chapter 16. So we'd use the same process that the building commissioner, the wetlands, the zoning, and harbor master are using. Zoning, interestingly enough, has the largest fines for their violations. They're at $300 a fine. And it's a, first time, once you set a fine, once you notify a person of a fine, it becomes a new fine every day after notification that he doesn't pay. And that's standard procedure. So we could go as high as $300 a fine if you consider this similar to a zoning matter, or we could go lower than that. But what we're doing today, and it's very, very fast, and it's very, very early in the morning, but what we're hoping is that you recall our past conversation and you recognize the modifications that we've brought forward today as being responsive to being more responsive to private rights on private property, but still look to maintain our tree cover over our public roadways, and look to violators and people who want to take down large trees as a source of replanting our tree canopy. Speaking of which, not part of the bylaw, but the adopted tree is going to be using the local funds for planting trees. And Anne can speak to how, if we're going to be putting our own resources, town resources, into planting trees, would like to have the owner's permission to plant them in a setback area. So the bylaws is looking to allow that to happen. So what I'm seeking today, if I haven't lost you, is hoping, Tim, that you verify that this is the stuff that we had come to a mutual agreement on, and then I'm hoping that the Board of Public Works supports our modifications, and encourages us to go forward in drafting this as a bylaw and seeking public approval.
So if I
So-
may, good, Rob, sorry.
Please.
I still have some concerns on the setback trees, where even if the town maintains the responsibility of the trees for the first 2 years that they're planted, I feel that, there should be, maybe some agreement with homeowners or something that, that they would water the tree, rather than the town sending out crews to water, the trees that they planted. And I think, the same thing on, DPW entering private property, for trees is a concern of mine for any maintenance. So any of that maintenance would most likely be by a private tree company. So, we would need funding to hire a private tree company to maintain these trees if needed. And if the homeowner is not going to water the trees, then I would say same thing, funding would be needed to hire a private company to water these trees for the first 2 years. So
I
think
agree, watering's gonna be really hard.
Right.
If we get that permission, are we putting the landowner in any, are we holding him responsible?
I'm not sure we can do that.
Okay.
All right. Any other comments, Tim?
No, I agree with, I think my biggest push for this is to create a tree fund, to allow any funds or tree replacement money or fines to go towards future trees. I know fines have come in the past for removal of public shade trees, and they went into the general fund and they weren't used to or they weren't designated to purchase or plant new trees. And I think that's exactly what what those fines are kind of for, that I think they're for, future planting and replacement of trees to replace trees that have been removed.
All right. Ron, do you have any questions or comments?
No, well, Andrea and I had a great conversation at the beginning of August, and everything that I spoke to Andrea about, was to try to, develop a program where, if a tree were cut down without a permit, that if the tree canopy was in the right of way, that would be considered finable by the town. I tried to emphasize that we want to stay away from maintenance or for care of trees on private property. I think it's a great program that, and I think residents would jump at trees being planted on their property, and I think that they would care for them. Most people want that. Most people, just can't afford a tree. And then create that fund where there will be money to perpetuate itself.
So can I just say one thing about the tree fund and the adopted tree program? Gary and
Ms.
I.
Parsons, go ahead.
Thank you. Gary and I did sit down Tuesday about setting up the tree fund and getting seed money for it. And that is leading towards an adopted tree program whereby we hope that we would go to the Springtown meeting to get approval on both of those articles. But this is leading towards an adopted tree program that would both offer residents free trees as well as trees that they would pay a minimal amount for. It will be a combined program. So I just wanted to fit that piece in. Thank you.
Um, My comments are the same as Ron's. I have had a conversation with Ms. Langhauer, Hauser about this, and I have the same concerns. I also support the notion of a healthy tree canopy for a number of reasons, several of which are outlined in the presentation. We are missing one board member. Mr. LaBelle, what do you think about Mr. Alves not being part of this discussion?
It's what I've thought about the entire time I've been on this board. It should be a 5-member board.
Well, how about if having a discussion with all 3 members? I guess.
I mean, I'm comfortable with supporting this program. You know, I think it's a great idea, and I think the town would accept this amicably. You know, just be careful to stay away from private property and any liability or, you know, unnecessary expense. Creating a fund, I think, is a great idea, and punishing people who abuse it is a great idea. So I favor this, and I'm anxious to see the final draft of this that would go before, you know, select board and town meeting.
Yeah, I think I feel the same way. I think the town council needs to have a look at this, and we need to understand any concerns that they may have. I also think it'd be a good idea to have a presentation. And by the way, I suggest you modify the presentation you have. I know it's work, but to conform with the discussion that we're having today. And I think the presentation should be made before the planning board and the select board before we start getting too much further down the road. But I'm supportive. I am very wary of maintenance on private property. So I think it would be a good idea to try and figure out how that would work. But I think it's worth moving forward with it. And so with that, Mr. LaBelle, any other comments?
No.
Okay. So I think in conclusion, then you can safely take the proposal you have modified slightly to address our last concerns and have conversations with other parts of town government. And eventually you want to bring something that's pretty close to what you want to have finalized back to this board so that we can take a more formal action on it.
I appreciate that. What I'm hearing is that you're saying we should step lightly in the setback area. Should we do any permitting in the setback area?
I think having the tree warden in an advisory role, consulting, if you will, is probably acceptable.
Okay.
Like Ron, I'm a little concerned about liability.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, the town has an important role in a number of different issues, but we want to respect private property. It's sort of one of the fundamental things. And we also have to be careful about the town's liability.
I appreciate that. And you've consistently said that. So, you know, can't say that I haven't heard you.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I would be curious what town council would say about the drip edge of the tree in the public way as sort of an ability for the town to control what happens to that tree.
Yeah, and I'm
I
not
guess
sure.
I guess I'm equating that to, my neighbor has a tree and 3/4 of the tree is leaning into my yard, and that area is where my garden is, and I want it to have some sun. Do I have a right to cut it down? And that becomes a legal question. Do I even want that right? But, in my discussions with Miss Landhauser, that was one of the thought processes that I had, that potentially that could be added, to this. But again, it's a legal issue. But it is an overhang into the public way. And should the town be able to say, no, you can't cut that tree down without our permission. If you do, it's a finable offense. And I believe that was the angle that I was looking at. Not so much that we want to maintain it, but that you can't just cut that tree down now. Because it's now part of it's hanging in the right of way, and we have some say over that.
If I could put it in a slightly different way, is the shade that tree provides a public resource and therefore somehow gives the town some authority?
That's the argument I would use.
Well, that's you and I are not lawyers, so let's see what the lawyers say about it.
Exactly. But from, putting our best planning chops on, I would use that. And I would also speak to how other towns and cities have regulated the drip line, most our closest neighbor being Fall River. So I would bring forward those examples of how they've been accepted by our state attorney general and have been in effect. Provincetown and Fall River are the ones that I can think of off the top of my head. But I'll make that argument, Mr. LaBelle. I think that those are the only mature trees that we have any sense of public responsibility toward.
Okay.
Is there anything, does any member of the public wish to address the board on this item? All right, seeing none, we will now move on to item old business C, which is the septic to sewer incentive program. Mr. Goulart.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Great discussion on trees. I think that's a really great program, and hopefully it fleshes out and gets instituted in the next year or so. I think it's something that's definitely needed. Let me share my screen. I've got one slide.
Mr. Goulart, for the record, could you identify yourself, please?
Dan Goulart from Buzzards Bay Coalition.
Thank you.
And it looks like I don't have, oh, there it goes. I just got my screen sharing permissions. Okay. And hopefully everybody can see that. I'll try to go to a full screen mode here. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Connect to Protect project updates. And then at the bottom there, you can really see the bottom line up front is we're seeking DPW approval on the temporary rate reduction that we discussed in the last meeting. So Tim and I have talked, and I think we're in agreement that, reducing to the old fee of $1,500 is really acceptable. It balances the preservation of revenue for the enterprise fund while also providing a pretty substantial incentive to homeowners who might participate in this program, in addition to the $5,000 subsidy that the coalition is trying to use grant money for. We've done some further refinement on parcels, working with Tim and also working really closely with Chris Michaud, who I've had a lot of discussions about the program with. We've managed to refine these parcels down to 122, and that does not include the 11 that are currently under an enforcement order from the Department of Public Health. And we've had a few discussions about that. I would like to see as many of those as included as possible if we have someone who's under enforcement order that could benefit from the grant money to help them get connected more quickly. I'm not opposed to using it for that, as long as there's no legal hurdles. We've drafted a memorandum of agreement between Buzzards Bay Coalition and the town. That's been reviewed by Tim and Chris Michaud, and I think we have concurrence, and that's currently with Chris Vitale, who's having it reviewed by town council. So I think that's moving forward pretty well. And then in another discussion with Tim, we started looking at trying to identify which of these 122 properties have already paid a betterment. And it turns out that's a little tougher than we initially thought. There's been some parcel number changes over the years that don't allow us to easily match up a parcel number with an actual street address. So I'm doing some research on that. I think the Buzzards Bay National Estuary Program and their GIS analysts may be able to take our old 64 parcel map and geo-rectify it onto a current parcel map so that we can start matching up these old parcel numbers to match up with these new parcel numbers where these 122 properties currently exist, and then easily be able to identify which properties have paid a betterment already and save Tim and his staff a lot of work, because it sounds like the current process is really man-hour intensive, and we don't want to increase the workload on DPW in the short term if there's going to be 20 properties connecting over the next 2 years. So I think we'll have good luck reconciling those parcel numbers and speeding up that process for Tim and his staff. We've moved forward. I've done phone interviews with about a half dozen installers off the approved installers list. And I think we're down to two that we're really interested in signing contracts with. I've done in-person sit downs with both of those approved installers. So I think we're really close with a little bit of contract negotiation to having sort of two dedicated installers who've agreed to the process and sort of this mass save model where they would provide the homeowner an estimate with the subsidy already included, sort of like Mass Save does, so the homeowner sees really what the true bottom line is for them as they make a decision to move forward, because this is a voluntary program and we want people to see it as an opportunity to make this change, increase their property value, increase the flexibility of their property use, and contribute to the water quality in Apponeganset Bay. And we've had a little bit of discussion with select board members that has been largely very positive, and we are set to brief the select board on the September 9th meeting to sort of get their blessing to move forward with the MOA, the rate increase, the rate discounts, and gain their support in marketing and public engagement on this program. So that is it in a nutshell. And I know there's only 2 board members here, but yeah, we're trying to get approval on this so we can sort of march this forward. And our goal is to engage individual homeowners, initially with a mailer, and then follow up with people who show interest so that we can provide them not only financial, but some technical assistance, sort of in the October timeframe. And with that, I will turn it over to the group for any comments or questions.
As a matter of just clarity, Dan, what do you need from us today versus what can we do at our next meeting, which is the 3rd Thursday of September?
Yeah, I mean, we would like to have the board's approval on the rate using the old $1,500 rate versus what is now the $2,500 rate. That would be, I think, really helpful moving into the select board meeting. If we have DPW board approval on that rate discount, temporary rate discount for program participants, I think it makes it a lot more conducive to moving the whole program forward, getting the MOA signed, and getting our first engagement with homeowners in October.
Right. Ron, do you have any comments?
No, I, had this discussion, with Tim. I think reducing that rate to move this thing forward, given the fact that there's going to be, other funding sources to get it done. You're going to get more people online paying sewer bills, so you're going to make up that loss. I think it's worthy of doing that, to get this program moving forward. I think it's critical to a lot of things.
Right. Tim, do you have any comments?
No, I support the project as well, and reducing back to our older rate and connection and system development fees to promote tie-in around these these areas. It's a great project. I know I ended up we worked with Dan here at the DPW trying to align the property from the old 1964 parcels that were set up in the betterment program back then with the new addresses and parcels that, properties that have been built since then. And it's like you said, it's a tedious man-hour process. Since then, we had an intern who, during his last week here, I put him on that project, and we were able to identify 18 of those 122 properties, and I think in time we'll be able to knock them all out, but it's going to take some man hours during less busy construction times, I think, or if we get another intern. Typically, these are done case by case. So when a sewer connection application comes in for approval, that's when we research the betterment on the property, and it's a one by one at that point. But I would like to have the information for all the parcels eventually for this project. I think it'd be some good information so we can assess, where we need to apply these reductions in the future.
Okay, I see a number of people from the public here. Does anybody in the public have any comments? Seeing none. Mr. LaBelle, it basically the same kind of question I had with our last item. There are only two of us today. Are you comfortable taking action on a reduction in the connection fees?
I am. I don't see any alternative. It's just the way the board is made up.
All right. So, Tim, I think what you're going to get today from us is a conceptual action, and you need to bring back a more detailed analysis of the financial side of this reduction, assuming a maximum number of connections. But I think what we can do is make the approval today so that we're on the record with the approval at a conceptual level, and then bring those numbers back so that we're able to defend them if anyone in fact chooses to challenge this action. Okay, because this isn't quite a normal rate setting action. We're actually going backwards a little bit. So I'd like to be very careful here. All right. Does that make sense to you, Tim?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
And Dan, did you have a financial
Yeah.
number for the DPW? You had a maximum, right?
Yes, yeah, I built out a little small chart that sort of shows the cost benefit analysis for fee reduction, overlaid against long-term sewer revenues that you gain from that individual. It's a 2-year payback period. And over a 10-year period, you're making roughly, $8,500 back on top of that from a connection based off an average sewer bill.
Right, and those numbers are as we discussed. I'd like to actually make them part of the formal action, if you don't mind. So I will entertain a motion to approve a rate reduction for sewer connections that are associated with the septic to sewer program that's been developed by the Buzzards Bay Coalition. Is that sufficient, Tim?
Yes.
Dan, does that get you what you need?
Yes.
Okay,
I
Ron?
will make that motion as stipulated.
all right. Mr. LaBelle makes the motion, Chair seconds. All in favor, Mr. LaBelle?
Aye.
Chair approves, votes approval. So we have an approval pending a more detailed analysis, which we should have next month. Okay. Thank you, Dan. This is a good program. I appreciate the work that's gone into it.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Mr. LaBelle, with your concurrence, I'd like to move old business item D to the end of our agenda. Is that acceptable to you?
That's fine. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So we're going to move item new business D, discussion of director's evaluation to the end of our agenda. So we're now to new business utility layer Granite City Crushing Inc. Tim, you want to give us the background on this, please?
Sure, and I believe Manny Soers is on this meeting from Granite City Crushing. Unfortunately, I apologize. I did not state in the letter that I sent him that the meeting was on Zoom. I just asked him to attend the meeting with no address. So, but the agendas are posted online with that direction, and they're welcome. You know, anybody's welcome to call for the link. On August 19th, I received an email or correspondence that Manny had come into the office, and I was out of the office for the 19th and the 20th. I received correspondence that he had come into the office and to discuss work within the right of way. And as he's a licensed utility layer, that's within his purview. But I was told that he was told that he was required to obtain a right-of-way permit for this work, and that he disputed that he should have to pull a permit as the plans were approved for this project. The right-of-way permit it's a $50 permit to, one, to verify that a licensed contractor is doing the work and all of their documentation is up to date. I know at the time, his certificate of insurances was also expired on our paperwork. But nonetheless, the work was started, I believe, the next day or the day after, and continued and completed. We had my assistant director had informed me of this, and that she had informed Manny that he was required to obtain the right-of-way permit, and also informed me that he can move forward with the work within the right-of-way without obtaining a permit. So we have sent engineering out there to inform them that they could not be working within the right-of-way without a permit, and I sent a letter to inform them that there's a town bylaw required it's a $200 fine per offense. Each day is a different offense. The owner of the property came in yesterday and paid the fine. Granite City Crushing is also the licensed utility layer that is planning to connect all of the utilities to this site, both within the state highway layout that we are responsible for that permit, as well as within the Reed Road area where they would connect to water. And we have concerns that reluctance to pull a permit for any of this work may create issues down the road. We require permits and inspections for any of this work.
All right, Mr. Soares, I see you're with us. Would you like to comment on this?
Yes, so Manuel Soares, I am one of the owners at 769 State Road. I am also the president of the Granite City Crushing. I do not dispute the need for this permit. However, what I am disputing is the procedure in obtaining this permit. And it seems to be that it's maybe an oversight on my engineers and my general contractor on why we don't have it, because all the plans. So when I did go into the DPW office, I was asking what the procedure should be. And I am now aware that we did follow the procedure, and all these plans, as this site has been permitted for 3 years, and we've been attempting to get the utility permits, and on and about 3 years ago when we did go before the DPW, and the DPW has complained since we've had these permits since we had the special permit for the project that our plans weren't approved. So we've worked for, I don't know, maybe 2 years, revising our approved plans to the DPW's requests. My engineering team has been working on obtaining all my permits. We do have the utility, finally, after 2 years of requesting, and we do have the permit to tie in sewer and water. So now coming up with what I see here is our plans are at the building department for this. I believe it's a $50 permit. So another thing is this work that we're doing over there. We went in and we removed the loom off the edge of the layout. We no longer own 449 Reed Road, so that's why we went in and did this work right now. We only have the easement for the width of the access road coming in there that we can work in. We're also getting ready to tie the utilities in from State Highway, which I believe, Tim, and you can correct me if I don't have all the permits to get into the street over there. This system is looped in from Mass Highway into Reed Road. And I was just assuming that whatever permits, which I had requested Tim to work with my engineer 2 years ago, whatever permits I need to do to get this work completed, be in place. So it's an oversight on, I guess it would be my responsibility now. It's an oversight that I don't have this $50 permit. But I would hope that since my partners went in and paid the fine, which I would have requested, I would have requested to appeal the fine. But I guess that's probably why the sheriff was over there yesterday. So what I'm saying now is, I guess moving forward, since all these plans are in the building department, my partners paid the fine. Have we applied for that permit yet, Tim?
There was a permit applied for. I haven't reviewed it yet, but I will review it. So the permit is under your responsibility. So you need to be a licensed utility layer to obtain that permit.
Yes.
Whether the applicant is different.
However, so as the requirement is for a PE to submit all the plans, and like I did explain to you when we first came in there, all of this stuff online. Yes, I do understand. I am the drain layer that's responsible for all this work. However, the requirements of what we need for this, that's why they were doing all that work. I mean, it's basically when John actually went in and paid the utility permits. I had no idea that this $50 permit wasn't pulled at that time, and I'm sorry for that. But
Yeah, so there are multiple permits. So there's any access to the state highway layout. So any of the municipal utility permits, as you know, go through the town, and, you know, we spent a lot of time reviewing that with the state, and the state issued those permits. So that's the access to state layout. The utility permits are separate. So for sewer and water, those permits would be completed through the town. And then I believe those are complete.
So, Tim, can I
Any
interrupt you?
work within the right of way or any street cutting other than the state highway layout is required to pull that permit with the town.
So this water main, it is a loop into the Reed Road. So can you explain to me why that stuff wasn't provided when, you know, my engineers worked countless hours on getting this permit. And as you're stating now, I have all the Mass Highway stuff for this loop, but I don't have the town stuff. So again, once again, I'm sorry. And I'm like I said, I would have had you know, John did tell me he was going to go take care of it yesterday because he was away when all this happened. And again, he's the GC on the job also, and he's my partner. So I guess he came and paid the fine. Now I'm at the, I have to go online to get this $50 permit. So is that what you're telling me?
Well, we'll review the permit that has been submitted.
Okay.
It would be permitted under Granite City crushing. It wouldn't be
Yes.
permitted under a general contractor or.
Well,
or
I mean, I have the sewer and water. I have the water permit for this location. My water
Yeah, the
permit-
water is
My
completely
utility,
different. Yeah.
my water main, I have a water main permit. So again, I have a water main permit. It's coming in from Route 6
Right.
to Reed Road.
Yeah.
I have all the permits for Mass Highway, which took me 2 years to get. Now it's an oversight that I don't have all the permits for that. So
connecting
You're
connecting to utilities is one permit for those connection fees. Cutting the road requires a specific bond above the utility layer bond for that we hold for the cutting of the
Tim,
road.
So Tim, what are you telling me? I need to come in and pull that bond? And you
Yeah.
had a question on my insurance was expired?
Yeah, on our
I think that was,
paperwork.
well, on your paperwork?
Yeah. So anytime a certificate of insurance is expired on your end, you need to forward any updated insurance
Correct.
certificates
Correct.
to us.
I understand that.
Yeah.
I understand that, Tim.
Okay, so
So
Tim,
I did renew my license this year. I know my insurance is all up to date. I also have not received, you know, any of that stuff. Like if my insurance was not up to date, you
Yeah.
have my email on file.
Right.
Why
Right.
did you not notify that there's an issue with that?
Because you
Did you
didn't
not
pull
know?
a permit.
I just pulled the sewer and water permits. I just got those 90 days ago.
all right,
So
gentlemen,
was this information valid 90 days ago and it's not valid now?
Yeah, it may have been, that's covered. So anytime you obtain a
Okay, so
permit.
my
to work,
insurance company, so the dates that we
I can give you
the
I
dates,
can-
no, Tim,
I
could
can
I
find
just
the dates.
finish? My
gentlemen,
insurance, you know, in the state of Massachusetts, I need all of this insurance, okay? So my insurance automatically renews. So my insurance company should, if my insurance lapses, they notify you, okay? We have a valid bond for the work to be a drain layer in Dartmouth, which I do not want to be a drain layer in Dartmouth. However, this is my own project and I'm going to do my own work, okay? I've pulled the bond for 3 years to do this work on this project, and I've been delayed for 3 years. So this is another delay that I would appreciate that you just review whatever I need and send me an email on whatever I need to do, get this approved, and I will go in and take care of it.
all
So,
right, may
on my
I
list-
interrupt, Tim?
Yeah,
May I
yeah,
interrupt?
yeah.
Is there anything about permitting this project that requires board action at this time?
About permitting this project, just permitting the right of way and doing work without a permit.
All right, so a fine has been paid. And Mr. Soares and you recognize the need to work out some administrative details so that he can continue the work. Have I got it right?
Correct.
Okay.
And we're here if he has any questions on
Alright, so-
permitting.
But my question right now is there anything that this board needs to do right now with respect to working with Mr. Soers and resolving the issues that need to be resolved so he can get out and do the work he needs to do?
Nope.
Okay. Mr. Soers, I appreciate your time this morning. I will trust that you and the department can work out whatever needs to be worked out. And then, Tim, I request that you and the assistant director look at the kinds of materials that are provided to contractors that comprise either a checklist or instructions for getting permits, and be sure that they are complete and clear. Okay, I know things change from time to time, and it may be that working with our new building official will help make it easier for contractors to do what they legitimately need to do as part of their business. All right. So is there anything else that this board needs to do?
Nope.
If not, Mr. Soers, thank you. I appreciate you being with us this morning and being patient. And with all due respect, I hope you get the job done and you don't need to come back to this board again. Okay.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time too. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Okay, item new business B, Dartmouth solid waste process. Jim, you want to take the lead on this?
I believe you requested, let's see. All right, so I will share my screen. Sorry. Okay, here we go. Can you see this?
Yes.
All right, so Mr. Chairman, you had sent me this email, not here to be dumped on. Opponents of New Bedford trash facility want more public input. Based on solid waste issues of a facility proposed for the city of New Bedford. and you had questions on our process?
Well, I guess with something becoming high visibility like this, there seems to be a couple of issues here. One is the need for a waste transfer station and how that transfer station might be utilized. In other words, why would it be built? And then how does this new transfer station affect or not affect Dartmouth's process? In other words, we're using the same disposal system as the city of New Bedford. And when there's this kind of a high profile controversy, I think it's good for this board to understand how it either affects or does not affect us. So I don't expect a lot of detail here, but just, give us an overview of what's going on and what it means to us.
So, we meet with the district over at Crapo Hill monthly to discuss any waste bans, any capacity issues, anything going on with solid waste or recycling. And unfortunately, the current issue with the landfill is that they only have about 5 years left of capacity. And so, the big question that's raised is, what happened? What do you do with solid waste, once we meet capacity? So currently, the district is working on an expansion of one last cell in the landfill, and if they're approved to open that cell and fill that cell, that'll give us approximately another 5 years of capacity. So hopefully we'll have another 10 years at minimum. And looking at this capacity is one of the reasons why we have a pay-as-you-throw program, where we promote the use the recycling, and by requiring the use of our orange bags, and since then, we've reduced our solid waste disposal to the landfill by about 40% of historically what we used to dump. And we, through the district, we get a reduced rate because the landfill is partially in Dartmouth along with the city of New Bedford. And we pay the percentage of what we dump in the landfill. So after the landfill hits capacity, we're going to need to look at, or before it hits capacity, we're going to look at alternatives, which we are discussing with the district, which may be shipping solid waste out by train to other parts of the country that will take it, if we can't find a location in Massachusetts. But as waste bans come through the Department of Environmental Protection, we continue to enforce these waste bans and provide the recycling of these items in the transfer station. And we recently began a new program. You should recall it's the food waste program, where residents who are in the program or have a day permit, or they can dispose of their food waste in containers at the transfer station. And food waste it's heavy, so there's a lot of tonnage there. So I can say in the first month of this program, we collected a ton of food waste. So we saved a ton of solid waste going to the landfill, and that's, in the long run, that's a lot of material.
So Tim, I have a couple of questions. First, what percentage of the landfill's waste stream can you attribute to the town of Dartmouth? What's our share?
I think off the top of my head, it's around 18%,
So 1/5 roughly.
something like that. Yeah, so
All right, and besides the city of New Bedford, who else is using the landfill?
yeah, so they have put the brakes on a lot of the private haulers they're dumping and they, because it was overwhelming the amount of tonnage that was coming in. So they have a reduced amount of tonnage that they allow every day at the facility now. So there are private haulers, and then they just contracted with the city of Fall River to be able to dump a percentage of waste, but nowhere near what they were collecting in the past. So that their contract with the city of Fall River is to help with funding the facility with a limited amount of waste that they can dispose as well.
So what I hear you saying is Fall River is now disposing a certain amount of solid waste at the Crapo landfill.
Great ball, yeah. Yes.
Okay, all right. So the town of Dartmouth has fairly aggressive recycling and waste disposal or waste reduction programs. What sort of efforts are being made? Are they at a similar level, say in Fall River and New Bedford? And in particular, how effective is the recycling program?
It's pretty effective. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, it's
really
effective
effective.
in the town of Dartmouth.
Yes.
And do these other towns have effective recycling programs? In other words, are they seeing the same, if you will, percentage of reduction of solid waste due to recycling?
So no, the city of New Bedford doesn't have a pay as you throw program. So, but they definitely do have a recycling program. I don't think it's as effective as Dartmouth because of our pay as you throw program it's pretty intense and it's really effective. But same thing. I don't know if the city of Fall River has a pay as you throw program, but I know they also have a recycling program. But like I said, it's in cities are a little tougher to enforce or implement pay as you throw programs because there are a lot more residents and multi-residential and
Sure,
there's
sure.
a lot of components to implement that program.
Yeah, larger buildings generally use large bins that are not conducive to the kinds of programs that residential areas can have. All right, I just needed to get kind of a sense and introduce this to the board because it seems to me that there are some issues coming down the road that we ought to see that they're coming down the road. So that was the basis for my request. Now, specifically, do you know what the controversial proposed facility was supposed to do? What function it was to have?
The
one that was in the newspaper, the people that were. Was this a separation facility? Was it a recycling?
I think it is a separation facility. It's a transfer station. Yes. Yep.
All right. And would this have handled all of New Bedford's waste as an initial separation, or what? I mean, we don't.
It says that they would process up to 1,500 tons of municipal solid waste per day, which is a lot. That's a lot.
All right, so this is basically a municipal separation facility.
Yeah. we process about, or we dispose of about 5,600 ton per year. At the Crapo landfill. They
Okay.
would handle 1,500 ton per day, up to 1,500 ton per day.
And the idea of this facility was to separate certain waste streams and try and reduce what was actually going to the Crapo landfill.
I'm not 100% sure, but it is a separation facility where they would separate disposables at their facility, and I would assume they would contract with vendors for recyclables, as we do.
Right. Well, I hesitate to reach into land use decisions in other towns, but it does sound overall like a facility capable of substantially reducing the amount of waste disposed in the Crapo landfill is a good idea. You know, the details are somebody else's to worry about, but, right. Mr. LaBelle, do you have any comments?
Probably too many.
Well, I'm trying to keep this at a fairly high level, just so.
What I would enjoy doing is buying you a cup of coffee and explaining my history in this, without violating any laws. But it would take too long right now, and it
Well-
wouldn't help with this conversation.
Yeah, well, perhaps if you could arrange a tour of the facility, we could.
Well,
take
they
care of
haven't haven't built it yet.
No, I meant the overall facility. In the same way that we looked at the water system, the water delivery system for
Yeah.
the city.
We can do that. I mean, just a brief history is I wrote the RFP that started this about 10 years ago. And it took on a life of its own when I retired.
Yes.
I mean,
And I'll talk to you about that off air.
All
I
right.
can comment a little more on as well. So we pay approximately $25 per ton, which is well below the average. You know, I believe that the city of Fall River's contract is about $122 per ton. I think the going rate's around $160 to $200 per ton. So you know, our assessment is approximately $152,000 this year. With the district to dispose of all of our solid waste based on the percentage of solid waste that we dispose of. So if it were to hit capacity, or if we would have to choose another alternative and go to that $160 per ton or higher, we're talking in the millions for the assessment.
Right. Well, in a past life, I was very aware of solid waste issues, and seeing other government entities wrestling with exactly the same issues.
Hmm.
You know, decreasing capacity, planning for the future, what other facilities can be implemented to reduce the waste streams to buy time. I mean, the principles are the same. It's just we're in a different place.
Yeah.
But
Tim, could I
it's-
ask you a favor? Would you mind forwarding that article to me? I did read it, but I never saved it.
Absolutely, I will.
And do you know if Crapo Hill has stopped the leaf production from Dartmouth and the city of New Bedford from going to the landfill?
They have not, no. But they have a composting area.
Yeah.
And they're looking to expand on that as well. On their
Okay,
site.
okay.
Does the composting end up in the landfill as a reduced volume, or does it get mixed with other waste so that it can be used for other purposes?
I think they use it for cover.
Yeah, so they use it for like a landscaping cover once the compost is converted.
Okay. All right. Any other questions or issues on this? Any members of the public have any questions? Seeing none, let's move on to our next item, which is new utility layer Primetime Development, Inc. Tim?
So Primetime Development, Inc. has submitted all of their paperwork in order to become a licensed utility layer, and they have all their certificates of insurance up to date, and they've submitted reference letters from Bridgewater, Canton, and Sharon, Mass. Everything seems in order and up to date, and I would recommend they be licensed in Dartmouth.
I'll make a motion to approve the new utility layer Primetime Development.
I have a motion from Mr. LaBelle to approve the new utility layer. The chair seconds that motion. Mr. LaBelle, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Item is approved. Next item is Ty and Bond Engineering Services relating to our permit year 6 annual report. This is the NPDES stormwater permit, Tim?
Yes, this is the NPDES stormwater MS4 permit that every year we go through a contract for all of the sampling and preparation work, and then we typically will contract the report and the SWMP. So this is to submit permit year 6 annual report and complete the SWMP.
Right.
Updates.
Any questions on this?
And
It's,
this is-
it's in your budget.
Yeah, this is funded through a line item in a highway operating budget, specifically for the MS4 and stormwater permits.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the Ty and Bond Engineering Service permit year 6 annual report for $6,500.
I have a motion from Mr. LaBelle. The chair seconds the motion. Mr. LaBelle, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Agreement is approved. Next item is Alpha Laval change order. Mr. Barber?
So Alpha Laval was the contracted company to reconstruct our 2 compost clam press machines in the wastewater pollution control facility compost area. So this is also funded through APA, Bristol County APA, and the original contract of $685,046. And they, during the reconstruction of the machines, there are a few more unforeseen parts that needed to be replaced, and some extended electrical work that wasn't seen during the initial inspection of the machines. So I took this change order and also presented it to the Board of Selectmen, or the Select Board, to target this funding of this change order also to the Bristol County APA, and I have submitted the request to the county. This was submitted and approved by the Select Board on August 12th at their meeting. So I recommend to move forward with funding this with APA funding.
One quick question,
Yes.
Tim, or Dennis. I've never operated a clam press, so I don't know the answer to this, but you got a left versus a right. On. And they're both 3882. Can that equipment be used without controls on the left side and the right side, or is that not possible?
So the scraper, the
It's got a
scraper's
left-hand operation and a right-hand operation.
correct. So they're two separate scrapers. One is a left-handed scraper, one is a right-handed scraper.
Okay, so it's, okay, fine.
Yeah.
That answers that. I'll make a motion to approve the lava change order for $43,908.
I have a motion by Mr. LaBelle to approve the item. The chair seconds. Mr. LaBelle, how do you vote?
Aye,
Chair votes aye. Item is approved. Next item is professional services for connection control, Weston and Sampson. Tim?
All right, so this may seem like a redundant request. So this contract agreement is to continue cross-connecting services through FY 25 for the cost of $89,679.60, funded through the water operational budget. This is on last month's agenda, but due to the lack of a quorum at the end of the meeting, we were requiring another vote on this.
All right.
Again,
Do I have a,
one quick
Motion.
question, Mr. Chairman. The telephone duct is also supported by these utility supports.
Well, no, it's a different item. That's
this
G.
is the item before.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No worries.
I apologize.
Yes.
We'll get to your question in a minute.
Yep.
So do I have a motion to approve professional services for cross-connection control?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. LaBelle moves approval of the Weston and Sampson Professional Services contract for cross-connection control. The chair seconds. All in favor, Mr. LaBelle?
Aye.
Board chair votes aye. Item is approved. Next item G, VHB Reed Road and Hicksville Road replacement of water main supports. Mr. Barber?
Okay, so this is a discussion on this project. So Mass DOT has issued multiple inspection reports rating the water main supports under Hicksville Road and Reed Road over 195 bridges to be deficient. These supports, as Ron stated, also support some conduit. I believe Verizon. Due to these reports, we requested the services of VHB to coordinate a traffic management plan, lane closures with Mass DOT to inspect the existing supports, submit design plans to replace the supports to follow Mass DOT bridge design manual, and a construction contract book and prepared final documents for advertisement of the project. These supports were initially installed by Mass DOT during their reconstruction of those bridges. Because they support municipal utilities, it is our responsibility to maintain them.
Why are these supports no longer adequate?
Due to corrosion and extreme corrosion, a number of the supports have broken and are beyond, I think, repair.
Can different materials be used for the replacement supports?
That's what would be looked at through the consultant and the Mass DOT bridge manual.
Right. Any other questions? Mr. LaBelle, you
Yeah.
had a question?
Yeah, I'm sorry for jumping ahead. The telephone is through there as well. Has anyone reached out to them? Do they own any of this? And would they be willing to participate in this?
I would definitely put some ownership on them for this, and VHB will be reaching out to them to coordinate.
Great. Okay, I'll make a motion.
So just
to approve the Reed Road Hicksville water main supports for 72,702.
yeah, and just to inform you, so
Sorry.
this is currently unfunded. So our plan is to propose this at capital improvement through the water enterprise to fund this in the fall. So that's the October town meeting.
So are we a little ahead of ourselves to actually approve this?
Yeah, that's why this was stated as a discussion. So if anybody had any comments or anything, so rather than move forward with a vote at this time, I just wanted to evaluate the contract and see if anybody had any concerns or questions with it. Like I said, we'll be moving forward to propose this for funding through our capital improvement plan.
Then I will retract
And-
that motion.
All right, fair enough. There was no second, so. Building on Mr. LaBelle's question, might these numbers change might the town's contribution change based on your discussion with the phone company?
They may, and you know, when I meet with VHB, we'll be discussing that further.
All right. And then, so this would potentially be an article for fall town meeting?
Yes.
And how bad are these supports? Is stuff gonna start falling off the bridge?
I don't think so. I think there are enough supports to keep everything up there that are not beyond on the corrosion end, but I think there are a number of supports that are corroded pretty severely. So Mass DOT, based on their routine inspections, submitted a report on it. So
What size are the mains, Tim? 10-inch?
not sure if they're 8 or 10. And just another note too, we'll be inspecting the insulation around the pipe as well when they do this work to see if that needs to be replaced as well.
Right, and if in a world where sometimes things happen that you don't want to have happen, do you have sufficient backup to address if there is actually a failure there? I mean, do you have some kind of an ability to react to a failure of these mounts and do repairs?
And we did, we had a failure of, actually, it was some insulation that broke free from one of the bridges and was hanging down through Mass DOT correspondence. We responded with a crew to do that work, to repair that work. So yes, yeah.
All right. Okay, no actions required. So I'd like to come back. Well, let's do the committee updates. Mr. LaBelle, do you have any committee updates?
No, only that, I met with the tree committee, had a long conversation with them. We discussed that earlier, so no, sir, I'm good.
Okay. I was part of a discussion with the capital projects planning committee, and we fell into a discussion regarding road maintenance. And it seems the committee understands and appreciates that a lack of funding the last couple of years has put the highway maintenance program, if you will, into a hole. In other words, we're behind. And there's some interest in understanding whether and how one or more borrowings could help the town catch up and then put the program back on a regular cycle of road repair and maintenance. And Tim and I had a discussion yesterday about this. I think it would be prudent for Tim to come into that. The next meeting is in a couple of weeks or 3 weeks. And I think it would be prudent to come in and talk about what that might look like and then report back to the board, this board. you know, you just can't snap your fingers and have a large pile of money and fix everything. That's not the way highway maintenance works. And so I think that providing the Capital Projects Committee with some sense of what can and perhaps should be done is important, so they can be realistic about this. So, Tim, if you and I, since I'm the representative on that committee, if you and I can work on that and then report back to the board at our next meeting.
Absolutely.
But
Look
this
forward to
is, I remember years ago, there was one of the oil change places had this ad about what happens if you don't change the oil in your car.
Mhm.
And the bottom line was the guy saying, well, you can pay me now or you can pay me later. I
Right.
think that applies here.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, we
All
have
right.
some, we have some big projects that we'd like to move forward with construction. A lot of the roadway maintenance funding and Chapter 90 funding goes, that goes out to the paving of roads and reconstructing of roads. But when we get into some of these roads with sidewalks on both sides and curbing and replacement of, including trees and landscaping and driveway apron, concrete driveway apron updates, it gets really expensive. So, I think we need to move forward with these projects so we can get them designed, get them advertised, and get them on the queue for construction. So we need the funding.
yeah, and I think the details, the complexity needs to be understood by the committee. The details, I don't know that they really need a lot of detail, but they definitely need some guidance in their thinking about how a funding mechanism could be, a borrowing funding mechanism could be used to catch up and put the road maintenance program on some kind of, if you will, 10-year cycle, so that we can, if you will, level fund it, I guess is the way to put it, more or less level fund it, recognizing there are going to be big projects. But anyway, so we'll report back on that. Okay, our next item is the director update, personnel vacancies. Tim?
So, we've had a few candidates for HMEOs with CDL licenses, interviewed a number of candidates. So far, we've had one applicant be hired and work one day and resign. Other than that, we haven't had any others. So we did get approval from the select board to hire HMEO drivers from the outside at a higher step than a step 1 and a step 4, which is a great incentive. So you to start at a higher pay rate. So hopefully moving forward, we can incentivize more candidates to come and apply for the position. So,
All right.
we have another driver. We have a driver retiring, I think, at the end of the month. So, we'll be down another driver. And I spoke with Human Resources, and they will be working on again approving plow drivers, part-time plow drivers for the winter season coming up.
Yeah, it's not a driver. He's actually an operator. He's retiring December 6th. So drastically put my
he has a CDL, right?
Yeah, SMEO.
He doesn't have a CDL?
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
But his official classification daily work is as an operator.
SMEO. Yeah.
Drastically puts our department down. And still no, like I've been out of a year, still no hope. So Continue on, gentlemen.
All right. Tim, anything else on personnel?
We also had, so we have multiple candidates for water pollution control operator position, which I'll be working with Dennis to correspond with them and set up interviews for that vacant position as well.
All right, and then what about the water system operator or deputy? You were looking for somebody to work with Steve?
Oh,
Sullivan?
the assistant superintendent. Yeah, the assistant superintendent of water, right?
Yep.
And so,
Yes.
so we hired Mr. Antonio Neves. He's actually here in the meeting today. I believe I stated that
Oh, there he is.
last
Yep.
meeting. Tony, if you want to say hello to the board.
Welcome aboard, Antonio. I was thinking that you were a member of the public. You no longer are. You're a member of the team.
I am. Nice to meet you guys.
So good to meet you. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Tony started on August 5th. So he's working through his, kind of onboarding process and getting familiar with the town of Dartmouth, water system and treatment facility.
Good. Thank you.
Welcome
Thank
aboard,
you.
Tony.
Thank you.
Okay, Tim, anything else?
Not on personnel.
All right. And now, given that the town has had a pretty significant change in administration, do you see any benefits or beneficial changes on the personnel side?
We have good communication right now with the current co-acting town administrators. So, and I think we have some more consistent correspondence with the Human Resources Department at this time. So
Okay.
hopefully that continues.
All right, good. That's good news. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next item is an ARPA update.
Yeah, so regarding the Bristol County commissioners had actually requested that I be authorized to use the portal for submitting requests for funding through the county and editing any requests, answering questions. So I did begin doing that. So, I'll work with Gary Carrero on any submittals that I'm uploading and it, the first couple have been pretty good. The county has awarded the 579 Westport Road project funding for the $2.5 million. And that project has been advertised this week. It was advertised, and hopefully we can get that project awarded. We have a pre-construction meeting, I believe, on the 9th or a site visit. So we're working with Weston and Sampson, along with our MCPPO staff to move this forward and expedite this project. I've also presented to the select board on August 12th a number of additional projects that I would like to pursue ARPA funding with, and they approved that. And to date, I've submitted 3 of these additional projects, including the clam press change order, which unfortunately you can't submit a change order on an existing awarded project for this funding. You have to start over with a new process with a new project submittal. So I did that and took care of that submittal, the biofilter ventilation upgrade with VFDs, as well as a switchgear upgrade for the wastewater pollution control facility, which is like a $212,000 a over $200,000 project. So that project, we also advertised this week. Hopefully we can get that awarded and approved through the county. It has been submitted to the county for funding.
So Tim, I
Will those
also
take the time-
heard, I'm sorry, Ron? Ron?
I think he froze.
Timeline?
Ron, can you repeat that? I think you froze. Hopefully give him a minute.
All right, we'll come back to Ron's question when when his connection improves. Tim, I recall a project relating to evaluation of roads and updating or upgrading the system that we use. Where is that? There's Ron.
Yeah, Ron's back. Ron, you're muted.
You got to turn on your microphone, Ron.
Yeah, I got it. Thanks,
All
guys.
You're welcome.
My question was, will those new projects make the timeline that the Bristol County Commissioners identified?
We have fast tracking them, and we're pretty positive that we can meet the timeline.
Good deal. Great.
All right, and then I had a question about the program that's used to evaluate road surfaces and highway conditions.
Yes, the asset management. So the select board had approved funding towards the asset management program, and one of the Chris Vitale, co-acting town administrator, is working on a contract currently.
All right, and that's an ARPA project as well, right?
Yes, that's not through Bristol County ARPA. That's through the revenue replacement funding through ARPA. Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And is there a deadline or a timeline on that?
There isn't, no.
Okay. All right, anything else on ARPA?
No, I also plan to submit a couple more projects, hopefully between this week and early next week. Smaller projects.
Right.
Moving on, I also, just an update, I met with Mass DOT to discuss, we'd submitted a project need form for the reconstruction of Hawthorne Street from Slocum Road to the New Bedford line. So the project has been approved to the next step, which is the project scoring through Mass DOT. So keep your fingers crossed, and hopefully we can get funding through the TIP program for the Hawthorne Street reconstruction.
All right, anything else on the director updates, Tim?
That is it.
Roughly speaking, have we purchased more or less water than our from New Bedford than our budget that we budgeted for?
In FY 24, you mean?
Yeah, this year, the current year.
Since July?
Yeah.
Well, we budgeted 1.4 million. Let's see.
We just paid a bill for 400,000 out of this FY.
Steve, what's your sense, given the amount of rainfall we had earlier in the summer?
I think the 1.4 million we have will be sufficient for this year. We got to pump all our wells basically through the summer, but we still had to purchase some, and I think we'll get through fine this year again. So we'll be reducing New Bedford's water usage probably by beginning of next month, and go back to our normal usage. You know, we'll still be pumping some because we're not going to be able to go without any water because of the Pinelli wells that are off. So that's we have to make up that difference that we don't get from our own sources.
Right, but my intuition was that we would purchase less water than we budgeted for this fiscal year. That's my intuition. So
Yeah, I think, again, we've had a great summer. I mean, we had a lot of rain, but we went probably through the whole month of June and most of July using wells that are on the Pascagoula River and not having to purchase that water from the city. So we did well.
Yeah, and that's due to a relatively high stream flow, right?
Exactly.
Okay. All right. Okay, with that, I'd like to come back to old business, item D, the director's evaluation. At our last meeting, I indicated that I had had an opportunity to speak to a number of the people that Tim supervises. And Ron, I understand you have done the opportunity to have done the same.
I have, yes.
All right, so I've been thinking about this a little bit. I provided a draft evaluation a meeting ago when we did not discuss this. And my sense has not changed. I haven't heard from you, Ron, and I haven't heard from Rick, but I wonder whether it would be appropriate for this board to authorize one of its members to complete the evaluation and sign it and submit it. What are your thoughts on that?
I was curious how you wanted to handle this. I have no objection to that. I mean, if it came from the chairman and reflected the thought process of the three of us, I think that would be fine with me.
All right. Well, you have the benefit of my thoughts in the draft evaluation that I provided, and I can provide that again. That's already on the record. Would you be comfortable completing?
I have
Mr.
it in front of
me. Yeah, would you be comfortable completing Mr. Barber's evaluation based on your interviews?
Sure. I mean, I am not very much different than your evaluation.
Right. I thought maybe that would be the case. So in the name of efficiency, I am comfortable with either one of the two of us completing and signing the evaluation on behalf of the board. If you're comfortable with that approach.
I'm fine with that.
All right. So shall we toss a coin as to whether you do it or I do it?
Well, I would put it this way. You already have it done. Mine's in pencil, but I'm okay with you doing it if you would like to. I can tell you I'm definitely in favor of moving this thing forward, and I apologize to Tim for slowing it down.
Right. Well, no, it's best to get it right.
I'll live.
So Ron, you're telling me that even though I have my coin out, I've already lost the toss.
That is correct.
All right, I will accept your evaluation here. And all right, what I'd like to do then is entertain a motion that the board chair be authorized to complete and submit the annual evaluation for the Public Works Department Director.
I will make that motion as stipulated.
All right. Mr. LaBelle has made a motion. The chair seconds the motion. Mr. LaBelle, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. So Tim, you and I will get together and complete the evaluation. I'll sign it. And then if you could ask Human Resources for any particular details on how that gets submitted.
Absolutely.
And also whether it's required or appropriate that be widely circulated, for example, to the select board. But, I just want to know so we complete the process by the book.
Absolutely.
All right. Any other items before the board?
Just one quick question, regarding the evaluation process. Had my delay in this caused a delay in any advancement in pay to Tim?
You're asking me?
I'm asking anyone who has an answer.
So yeah,
Yeah.
so, it'll be retroactive.
Okay, that would be my question. Okay.
All right, any other questions? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Mr. LaBelle moves to adjourn the meeting. Chair seconds the motion. Mr. LaBelle, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for your time
Thank you.
and your efforts. I appreciate what the department does and how well it does it. All
Thank
right,
you.
good day all.
Enjoy
Thank you,
your
everyone.
afternoon. Take care.